Chapter 1561, View at the Peak. Chapter 1561, View at the Peak. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. This was one of the greatest pursuits of refinement path, combining all kinds of killer moves into one Gu worm. For instance, mortal killer move self-strength. This move was a strength path killer move which Northern Plains Gu immortal Su Xianxia had created for her daughter He Lulan. Its core was strength path, but it treaded on soul path and chi path. Once it was activated, it could produce a human phantom. The phantom's appearance was lifelike and was a portrayal of the Gu master's inner consciousness. Moreover, this strength path phantom could act on its own and chase its enemies. There were altogether 50 Gu worms used in forming this killer move. According to Fong Yuan's current comprehension of the refinement path maxim, any killer move, be it of mortal or immortal level, could be considered as an incomplete recipe. That was to say, self-strength killer moves' contents could be altered by taking out and adding in various kinds of Gu materials, continuously improving it until it becomes a Gu recipe for self-strength Gu. When the Gu recipe is perfected and self-strength Gu is refined, activating just this Gu worm could produce a strength path phantom. The benefits of this were clear as day. A killer move condensed into a Gu worm reduced the amount of Gu worms used to only one. When the Gu master activates it, not only would it be extremely convenient and fast, the primeval essence expended would also be much less than activating the killer move. Another example was immortal killer move Myriad Self. This move was Fong Yuan's unique creation. It combined enslavement and strength path, made from the merging of killer moves like Dragon Horse Spirit, 3 Head 6 Arms, Rat Epidemic, Thunder Explosion, Leopard Rush, Horse Barrage, 3 Hearts Combination Soul, Beast Phantoms, 6 Arm Heavenly Zombie King, and so on. The core immortal Gu were self-strength, pulling mountain, pulling water, and cleanse soul. The supplementary Gu worms were all-out effort Gu, bitter strength Gu, borrow strength Gu, self-reliance Gu, refine essence spirit Gu, earth strength Gu, water strength Gu, wind strength Gu, lightning strength Gu, fire strength Gu, heavenly essence treasure king lotus Gu, lurking soul coat Gu, breath concealment Gu, group strength Gu, as well as all kinds of soul path mortal Gu. This killer move clearly had lots of contents. It was extremely troublesome to activate. It was because Fong Yuan had practiced it frequently to the point where it had become a kind of instinct that he was able to use it freely in battle. But in fact, it contained countless extremely complex steps. What if this killer move was elevated and refined into a Gu? Myriad Self Immortal Gu. It would clearly be extremely convenient and usable. Fong Yuan would only need to transfer immortal essence and activate this Gu worm to produce tens of thousands of strength path phantoms, quickly and conveniently. Fong Yuan did not have qualifications to do this before, but now with his quasi-supreme refinement path attainment, he had the ability to reach this level. All kinds of killer moves refined into Gu worms. Fong Yuan's heart thumped with excitement, but he did not lose his calm as he continued to ponder. I now have the ability to elevate killer moves into Gu worms. However, even though there are killer moves that can be refined into a Gu worm like Myriad Self, some killer moves cannot, like Purple Blood River Formation or Ignited Thought Flying Rock. If these killer moves are condensed to their limit, they will comprise multiple immortal Gu. Later on, I will need to coordinate and activate these multiple immortal Gu to use the killer move. This method has benefits and demerits as well. The benefits are that it will be much more convenient and quick. The exhaustion of mind is also sharply reduced. But there are disadvantages. First, when Myriad Self killer move is condensed into a Myriad Self Immortal Gu, other immortal Gu might be required to be used as Gu materials to refine it. Moreover, the power of just Myriad Self Immortal Gu might not be as strong as Myriad Self killer move. Myriad Self killer move used so many immortal Gu and supplementary mortal Gu, while Myriad Self Gu would only be one Gu. If its rank was just rank 6 or rank 7, it would have limited Dao marks, thus not enough power. Another thing is that when only a Gu worm is used, it will be easy to counter. Killer moves are complicated, but they are also much more difficult for others to deduce and decipher. Killer moves could also be continuously adjusted and elevated. For instance, Myriad Self Killer move had the variation moves Strength Path Giant Hand and Reverse Flow Protection Seal. But Myriad Self Gu itself would not have the potential to be elevated further. Of course, the overall benefits in elevating killer moves to a Gu worm is still much higher. Simply because the Gu could be used as the core of the original killer move anyway, raising its power and also preventing it from being deduced easily. Even if some immortal Gu have to be used as Gu materials during the refinement process, I can refine them again. This ability would be extremely helpful to Fong Yuan. Look at Myriad Self first. Fong Yuan's Reverse Flow Protection Seal was a variation move of this killer move. Since the start, it was extremely troublesome for Fong Yuan to activate Reverse Flow Protection Seal. He needed time to prepare for it because of the complicated procedures, and if there was even a slight mistake, the killer move would fail and inflict backlash to himself. But if he had Myriad Self Immortal Gu, Fong Yuan could modify Reverse Flow Protection Seal, greatly simplifying its steps and activating it much faster. With this, his battle strength would rise by another level. Fong Yuan possessed a lot of killer moves, but the ones he used frequently were few. Myriad Self could be condensed and elevated, Purple Thought Perception Starlight could be condensed into multiple Immortal Gu, Ancient Sword Dragon Transformation could also be condensed into one Gu worm. By then, with Myriad Self Immortal Gu and Ancient Sword Dragon Immortal Gu, he could use just 2 Immortal Gu to unleash the killer move Myriad Dragon. Divination Tortoise Transformation, Self-Cleansing Killer Move, 180 Slaves, Enslavement After Victorious Fight, and so on could also be condensed and elevated. As Fong Yuan continued to ponder deep into this subject, he suddenly had another insight. Wait, be it killer moves or refining Gu, they are both basically the utilization of Dao. Isn't my Reverse Flow Protection Seal using Reverse Flow River? And didn't Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's Orderly Well use City Well? City Well and Reverse Flow River are not Gu worms, why could they be used? Isn't it because they are secluded domains of heaven and earth, containing a huge amount of Dao marks which are then used by us? Fong Yuan thought about it again. The nurture, use, and refinement of Gu worms were in essence, Dao. There were too many Gu cultivation paths. 1. Fire path, water path, metal path, wood path, strength path, wisdom path, soul path, rule path, poison path, theft path. These paths all involve the nurture, use, and refinement of Gu, all involving Dao. This is in fact a kind of Dao that connects us to heaven and earth. Suddenly, the most classic phrase of the Gu cultivation world appeared in Fong Yuan's mind. Man is the spirit of all beings, Gu are the essence of heaven and earth. Never had Fong Yuan's understanding of this phrase been as profound as this moment. I want to condense and elevate killer moves into Gu worms. I need to take out Gu worms, add in Gu materials, and merge them into one. Immortal Gu are the fragments of the great Dao, Gu materials are the accumulation of Dao marks. As long as the path is the same, they can be substituted with each other. The reason why killer moves like Reverse Flow Protection Seal and Orderly Well can be activated is because Reverse Flow River and City Well have an abundant amount of Dao marks that can take the place of Gu worms. From this point of view, these two killer moves have actually progressed from killer moves to Gu recipes. As Fong Yuan continued to ponder, many of his questions from before were being clearly solved. Refinement path was actually rather special, although it was one path, it was related to every path. The comprehension gained from becoming a quasi-supreme grandmaster was much broader and deeper than any of Fong Yuan's accomplishments in other paths. Thinking about it, I am using landscape as before Immortal Gu to restore Dang Hun Mountain. It looks like I am using a Gu worm on the surface, but it can also be seen as using the killer move landscape as before. Any killer moves can be seen as an incomplete Gu recipe, thus from another angle, this is also Gu refinement. Only that what I am trying to refine is not a Gu worm, but a rank 9 immortal material, Dang Hun Mountain. Fong Yuan was only rank 7, but he could refine rank 9 immortal material. The important thing here was the Orderly Well killer move, which was Spectral Soul Demon Venerable's method. And back then, the orderly well killer move that Spectral Soul Demon Venerable used on Dang Hun Mountain was of rank 9 level. Realizing this point, Fong Yuan immediately got many new ideas for the restoration of Dang Hun Mountain. Dang Hun Mountain can be restored, it can also be used as a core like Reverse Flow River and form an immortal killer move. Oh. I understand. The peak of soul cultivation recorded in Spectral Soul's true inheritance, the three-headed thousand arms demon soul, isn't it an artificial secluded domain of heaven and earth? Also, the rank 9 killer move Ghostly Concealment of Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable has countless Dao marks working together and can function endlessly without adding any immortal essence. This is also an artificial secluded domain of heaven and earth. All along, Fong Yuan did not understand why Ghostly Concealment did not need immortal essence and could continue working all the time. But now, he came to a realization. Did Dang Hun Mountain require immortal essence? No. Did Luo Pa Valley require immortal essence? Also no. Spectral Soul forcibly resisted the calamities and tribulations, although he used immortal essence to activate killer moves. In essence, he did not require immortal essence to possess his extremely powerful battle strength. But this did not mean all kinds of Dao marks could be casually piled together with enough quantity to form a secluded domain of heaven and earth, or form a killer move like Ghostly Concealment. Dao marks needed to coordinate together. Wasn't this coordination just Gu refinement? The required Gu materials needed to be selectively chosen. Wasn't it nurturing Gu? The required food materials needed to be of a certain standard. Wasn't it using Gu? The coordination between Gu worms was the coordination between Dao marks. Fong Yuan continued to ponder deeply for a long time before slowly opening his eyes. 3 days and 3 nights had passed. He had absorbed the refinement path true meaning in a few hours, but his comprehension used up 3 days and 3 nights. Fong Yuan's black eyes shone brightly, he looked even more unfathomable now. You. Looking at Fong Yuan's eyes, Lang Yalan's spirit became uncertain with shock. What's wrong? Fong Yuan asked. Lang Yalan's spirit sighed. The air you gave off a moment ago made me feel like I was looking at Giant Sun Immortal Venerable or Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable. Giant Sun Immortal Venerable and Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable, Anew Gu Venerable was publicly recognized as a supreme grandmaster of their own path. Fong Yuan was already able to reach their boundary with his refinement path quasi-supreme grandmaster attainment. He was no longer looking up at the towering mountains, from the level below, he was able to observe the scenery. This was the view at the peak of Gu cultivation. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1562, Emperor Yama. Chapter 1562, Emperor Yama. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Slumbering Lightning Python. Lang Yalan's spirit gave a loud shout. At the next moment, lightning bolts flashed and interwove together, forming a huge dragon-like lightning python. Lightning was yang, python was yin. The lightning python contained yin and yang. Not only was the wild nature of the lightning curved, it even showed some gentleness. As a result, the lightning python was not ferocious, but graceful and lovely. It moved in a zigzag pattern, slowly coiling around a mountain-like elephant-shaped rock. The python constantly crushed the rocks into the finest powder. Refinement Path had 4 publicly recognized strongest immortal killer moves to deal with immortal materials. One of them was Slumbering Lightning Python. Lang Yalan's spirit originated from long-hair ancestor, he naturally had extreme proficiency in them. This killer move was elevated to rank 8 by using rank 8 Refinement Path Immortal Gu. They could not process this rank 8 immortal material Elephant Armor Mountain without the rank 8 Slumbering Lightning Python. This was an immemorial immortal material of Information Path. Lang Yalan's spirit had already been processing immortal materials for several hours now. Over 10 rank 8 immortal materials had already been processed. These immortal materials were divided into various categories and were all of Information Path. Slumbering Lightning Python gradually dissipated, Elephant Armor Mountain had completely been turned into fine powder. The powder gathered with other immortal materials, and under Langya land spirit's methods, they all formed a constantly rotating multicolored whirlpool. It is done, you can stop the immortal formation. Langya land spirit let out a breath of relief, extremely exhausted. Immediately, a hairy man Gu immortal removed the refinement path immortal formation. With the immortal formation gone, the aura of the multicolored whirlpool immediately started to spread. The distant wisdom Gu was like a kitten that had smelled fish as it flew over and jumped right into the whirlpool, looking drunk. So wisdom Gu had such a trait. Fong Yuan said with a moved expression. According to legends, wisdom Gu's recipe contains a large amount of information path immortal materials. In nature, a wild wisdom Gu can only complete its advancement in areas that are full of information path Dao marks. Langya land spirit said. Fong Yuan immediately understood. Wisdom Gu's Gu recipe was not recorded in both Spectral Soul's True Inheritance and Langya True Inheritance. Only Heavenly Court had some records. Fong Yuan could not control Wisdom Gu, but he could move this lump of multicolored whirlpool from afar. As for those over 4,000 years of lifespan Gu, he had already collected them after refinement path true meaning. I had to trouble First Supreme Elder to personally act. I will gradually repay this debt. Fong Yuan spoke in a sincere way to Langya land spirit. Although the method of moving Wisdom Gu was simple, the cost was not anything small. Various rank 8 immortal materials had to be merged to create this temporary multicolored whirlpool. And this whirlpool would gradually dissipate not long after. It had no use besides deceiving Wisdom Gu to change location. This cost was naturally borne by Fong Yuan. After discussing with Langya land spirit, both sides came to an agreement to let Fong Yuan owe the cost for the time being and not immediately pay. After all, Fong Yuan had just been through an intense battle. He urgently needed to fill his immortal essence reserves. This was also because of the rise in Fong Yuan's status. Before this, he would not have been able to enjoy such great benefits. But now, after he had pummeled Thunder Ghost True Monarch, he had the dominant status when communicating and negotiating with Langya land spirit. Time is tight, I will immediately go into closed cultivation and use all my strength to deduce a way as fast as possible to get out of this predicament. Fong Yuan said. Good, then I won't disturb you. Joy flashed by Langya land spirit's eyes, his exhausted look easing by a lot. Fong Yuan returned to his cloud city. Feng Jiuji's group had invaded Langya blessed land and taken several cloud cities. But by some luck, Fong Yuan's cloud city had evaded this calamity and was still safe. This might also be related to Fong Yuan's powerful luck. Fong Yuan entered closed cultivation. The other variant human Gu immortals wanted to get close to him, but Fong Yuan did not meet any of them, including those of the snowman race. Inside Sovereign Immortal Aperture. Immortal Killer Move, Strength Reversing Life and Death. This move is a Strength Path Killer move. It is not too suitable for my Time Path clone. I need to modify it into Time Path in the future. Fong Yuan's Time Path clone immediately turned back into an immortal zombie and arrived in front of Wisdom Gu. After a while, Wisdom Gu erupted with the light of wisdom. Fong Yuan's Time Path clone sat cross-legged and began to think rapidly in the light of wisdom. The issue of the Dao marks left by Feng Jiuji's group in Langya Blessed Land was shelved aside by Fong Yuan. Comparing Langya Blessed Land's safety and his was of course more important. Right now, the most crucial thing is to elevate Yama. Otherwise, once I come out of the Blessed Land, the immortal essence to maintain Yama is really too high. If Yama was not elevated, Fong Yuan would be in an extremely passive situation. If his location was exposed and Heavenly Court continued to make deductions, they would learn of even more secrets which Fong Yuan absolutely did not want to see. Previously, Fong Yuan had thought it was much better to use Ghost Official Garment along with Ghostly Concealment's power to block Heavenly Court's deductions. The killer move Yama was a successful result of his attempts. But now, Heavenly Court had a lot of clues on Fong Yuan. The current Yama was not enough to protect him. This deduction continued for over a month. Of course, the light of wisdom was not used the whole time. The whole process went smoothly for the most part, because Fong Yuan had great grandmaster attainment in Theft Path, quasi-supreme in refinement path, and also had good grasp over ghostly concealment, ghost official garment and other killer moves. The process slowed slightly because of his slightly lacking soul path attainment. The biggest difficulty was during the mid-late stage. But it was also resolved after Fong Yuan added rank 8 Immortal Gu Soul Beast token. The killer move Yama had a huge transformation. Fong Yuan renamed it to Emperor Yama. Emperor Yama had 4 main components: ghostly concealment, ghost official garment, soul beast token and myriad self. Although I have deduced Emperor Yama, it can only be considered an initial version. I will need to activate it and constantly adjust it. My main body will be in charge of this. As for the clone, it will continue to deduce the way to deal with the Dao marks left by Fong Gu. Just like this, Fong Yuan stayed in Langya Blessed Land for about half a month. Fong Yuan finally came out of his closed cultivation. His clone had already completed its deduction task. Fong Yuan found the method to resolve the problem of the Dao marks left by Fong Gu. He gave this method to Langya Land Spirit. The latter's expression immediately changed at this, cursing Heavenly Court's sinister craftiness. It turned out that if refinement path methods were used to get rid of these Dao marks, it would instead help these Dao marks. The killer move self-cleansing was also ineffective. Heavenly Court was not a match for Spectral Soul Demon Venerable in Soul Path, but their refinement path foundation was not any weaker than Langya sect. After all, among the 3 supreme grandmasters of refinement path, only Long-Hair Ancestor was a hairy man, while the other 2 were humans, and most of their inheritances were gathered by Heavenly Court. Fong Yuan was a quasi-supreme grandmaster. He saw through this scheme and even provided the simplest way to deal with it. Fong Yuan could quickly deal with these Dao marks when Langya Blessed Land was relocated. Other methods would require more than 10 years. So the question returned back to the starting point: Langya Blessed Land's relocation. What do we do? Maybe Heavenly Court intentionally made this arrangement to force us to relocate the Blessed Land. Langya Land Spirit was very worried. Fong Yuan also had the same worry. Heavenly Court had not made any movement in this period of time, but it did not mean they had given up. It was more likely that they had already made preparations and were waiting for Langya Blessed Land to expose its location. But if they didn't relocate, Heavenly Court would find this location sooner or later. Looks like we can only prepare to relocate. This is the recipe for Myriad Self Gu. If it is refined, it will be a huge boost to my battle strength. Fong Yuan said as he gave a Gu recipe to Langya Land Spirit. This was the result of his recent deduction. Using his refinement path quasi-supreme grandmaster attainment, Fong Yuan was confident this was already the most outstanding recipe possible. Myriad Self Gu. Langya Land Spirit's attention was immediately attracted. Although his obsession was different from the previous Land Spirit, he had originated from Long-Hair Ancestor after all. If your Immortal Gu recipe is refined, it will be at least a rank 7. But, several of the immortal materials are in scarce amounts in the sect's storage. It will be difficult to purchase them in a short time period even from Treasure Yellow Heaven. Langya Land Spirit gave a bitter smile. No worries, I will gather these immortal materials myself. Fong Yuan waved his hand, giving a slight smile, his gaze deep and eerie. With the new Emperor Yama killer move in his hands, he intended to use this chance to test out this move's power in a real battle. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1563, Meng Tu. Chapter 1563, Meng Tu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Southeast of the northern icy plain, north of Inkman City, northwest of Poison Grassland, and at the extreme south of Meng Tribe, there was a place called Autumn Blade Plain. This was a special land created naturally. It was flat with no grass growing on it. Meng Tu walked step by step in Autumn Blade Plain. He was tall and well-built, and had a bronze luster to his skin. He was wearing an armored vest that revealed his shoulders. His pants were rolled up, revealing his calves. He was walking barefoot. The plain and natural ground was as sharp as knives. As Meng Tu walked on this silver soil, it was like walking on a mountain of blades, as his every step left behind a trail of blood. But his expression was without a change. He was silent, his eyes closed, and his brows slightly knitted as he pondered over a doubt in his mind. Autumn Blade Plain is full of blade path Dao marks, forming countless edge gu naturally. I have been walking back and forth barefooted for several years now, but what is it that I am lacking for which I am still unable to make a breakthrough in my blade path attainment level? Blade path was an extremely small path. It could not be compared to paths like metal path, fire path, earth path, and so on. Sword path could not be left out when mentioning blade path. These two paths were deeply interconnected and yet conflicting with each other. Because the origin of these two paths was the same, that was edge gu. Regarding edge gu, it was recorded in the legends of Renzu. Renzu was walking in ordinary abyss where some places were swampy, it was easy to get stuck in the mud, and the stench was foul. Some places were full of thorns, sharp pointy tips were everywhere. Renzu suffered a lot of injuries. In some parts of the ground, there were also edge gu. When Renzu stepped on the ground, his soles were injured by the sharp edges, his injuries became larger as blood flowed. When he walked, the pain could be felt striking deep within himself. Edge gu was the origin of both blade path and sword path. Many wild edge gu were produced in nature. Autumn Blade Plain was one of the few edge gu production areas in 5 regions, and was controlled by the super force Meng tribe. Meng Tu was a rank 7 gu immortal who cultivated blade path and had peak rank 7 battle strength. He was a genius when he was young, and grew rapidly, becoming a famous expert of Northern Plains gu immortal world, and was one of the pillars of Meng tribe. Several years ago, he gave a request to the tribe's gu immortals, wanting to stay in this Autumn Blade Plain. On one hand, he could look after this important resource point of the tribe, while on the other hand, he was doing this in consideration of his own cultivation. His blade path had been stuck at Quasi Great Grandmaster level. He wanted to use this Autumn Blade Plain, by imitating Renzu's actions, to truly step into Great Grandmaster level. But over these years, although he made some gains, he was always obstructed by a thin veil from stepping into Great Grandmaster. Meng Tu had a determined personality. He refused to give up even after not seeing results for several years. Sigh, breaking through to Great Grandmaster realm is truly difficult. The tribe's supreme elders all praised me as a blade path genius rarely seen once in 1,000 years, but I am still only at quasi-great grandmaster level even after hundreds of years. Although I have already sensed the thin veil obstructing me which seems to be so near to me, it feels like it is far away in the horizon and is as difficult as stepping into heaven. But I need to continue walking. This method still has some effect. Someday, I will definitely be able to become a blade path great grandmaster. Ha! Who is it? Right at this time, the gu formation that covered the whole of Autumn Blade Plain was destroyed abruptly, revealing the clear blue sky. A figure descended with overwhelming aura, directly charging at Meng Tu without even saying a word. Such guts! Meng Tu shouted in fury. He did not dodge, instead counterattacking with a knife hand stance. A loud sound resulted from the collision. The attacker was stable like a mountain, while Meng Tu was sent flying from the force. My immortal killer move might look like it has no momentum, but all its power is contained within. I can easily break the ordinary defenses of rank 7 gu immortals. But this person is uninjured after taking my attack head-on. This is a powerful enemy. Meng Tu was surprised. He quickly stabilized his footing and shouted at the attacker, "State your name. You dare to intrude on my Meng tribe's territory." Ha ha ha. Fong Yuan laughed madly, saying in a completely altered voice, "Meng Tu, of course you don't recognize me, but that is not an issue, because the dead do not need to know too much." Myriad Self Gu's recipe required an enormous amount of edge gu. More importantly, it required a kind of special rank 7 immortal material that was deep under Autumn Blade Plain, drinking blade wine. This wine was not produced naturally. It was an unusual product formed from the bloodstains left by Meng Tu, which had seeped deep into the ground and merged with this place's blade path Dao marks. Fong Yuan knew from his first life's memories that Meng Tu bitterly cultivated here to break through to Blade Path Great Grandmaster, but was never able to meet with that opportunity. Meng Tu failed to break through. He imitated Ren Zhu by inserting Edge Gu in his heart to deepen his understanding of Blade Path. The killer move he created was incomplete and had serious hidden side effects. Meng Tu's mind gradually started to be affected and he would often fall into a mad demonic state. Meng Tu also knew that this was not the ideal method, but he kept on insisting on cultivating relentlessly, hiding it from others. When the 5 regions chaotic war started, Meng Tu took part in battles. However, the side effects started up during a battle. He fell into a crazed demonic state, killing his own tribe's Gu immortals. After Meng Tu regained his senses, he concealed all traces while also fabricating false reasons, concealing this from the tribe. However, as this happened suddenly, Meng Tu was not able to deal with the traces completely. Northern Plains Gu immortals slowly noticed some clues and found the truth. Meng Tu faced huge pressure. Heavenly Court came and secretly instigated him. Meng Tu had initially felt fortunate and wanted to use Heavenly Court to make contributions and make up for his mistakes, but how could Heavenly Court be schemed against by him, a Blade Path Gu immortal? Meng Tu was instead schemed against by Heavenly Court. He made mistakes again and again until he had no way out other than to side with Heavenly Court. To support this chess piece, Heavenly Court deduced the opportunity to advance to Great Grandmaster, which was the drinking blade wine deep underground in this place. Meng Tu followed Heavenly Court's guidance and came to Autumn Blade Plain. He dug the ground and extracted a large amount of drinking blade wine. When he took a small sip, his organs felt like they were being cut by blades. When he took a large sip, he felt so much pain that he wished for death. By the time he took the 3rd sip, he had advanced to Blade Path Great Grandmaster. From then onwards, he completely devoted himself to Heavenly Court and became the spy with 2nd highest status in Northern Plains after Prince Fong Xian. Later on, due to a lucky coincidence, his identity was exposed by Ma Hongyun, but that was another story altogether. Fong Yuan had deduced and confirmed that this place contained drinking blade wine. Although the quantity was not much, he only needed a small amount. As for this Meng Tu, Fong Yuan had carefully picked him to test his Emperor Yama killer move. Fong Yuan could not find a rank 8 Gu immortal to test the might of his Emperor Yama. That would be looking for trouble. As for ordinary rank 7 Gu immortals, Fong Yuan had no use for them. However, Meng Tu, who had peak rank 7 battle strength, and was already renowned as a Blade Path Quasi Great Grandmaster, was an extremely good choice. So Fong Yuan made a long trip to Autumn Blade Plain, directly looking for trouble with Meng Tu. The attack just now was Meng Tu's hidden killer move. Its power is beyond ordinary, but I could block it with just Emperor Yama. This defensive method is pretty good. Fong Yuan assessed in his mind. He had already activated Emperor Yama. He was covered in a yellowish-brown robe of an emperor, turning into a 10-feet giant. The giant had a crown on its head which had strings of pearls in front and back. Its face was deep and dark, as if it was shrouded by a layer of fog, or was a dark whirlpool. Its sleeves were long and wide, it had a jade belt on his waist, and a bronze armor was covering his chest and back. The surface of the robe was adorned with golden threads that had weaved into thousands of ghostly monsters who stood orderly and without moving, giving a dignified aura. Meng Tu's attack was not without any effect. The thin bronze armor on Emperor Yama's chest had a dent. But with a little consumption of Fong Yuan's soul foundation, this dent immediately bulged up, restoring itself. This was the specialty of Emperor Yama. Rank 9 Ghostly Concealment did not expend anything and also functioned on its own, while Ghost Official Garment relied on Soul Foundation. Emperor Yama, which was a combination of these two moves, did not require Immortal Essence, but spent Fong Yuan's Soul Foundation. Meng Tu, you are nothing much. You have cultivated here for several years. What new killer moves have you created? It will be a real pity if you don't use them before your death. Fong Yuan provoked. Meng Tu laughed from anger, then looked at Fong Yuan with pity. No matter who you are seeking your own death by challenging me here. There used to be a defensive immortal formation here, but do you know why I persuaded the tribe to take it back? Because as long as I am here, there is no need for an immortal formation to guard this place. Meng Tu fiercely stomped on the ground with his right foot. At the next moment, the ground shook as endless blade lights surged up, countless blade path phantoms gathered into a huge army, surrounding Fong Yuan tightly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1564, Decent, I suppose. Chapter 1564, Decent, I suppose. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. In a blink of an eye, Fong Yuan was already surrounded tightly by countless blade path phantoms. Not only this, the endless blade lights filled the whole sky, isolating inside from outside. Whoever you may be, your defensive killer move is indeed amazing. Meng Tu was protected by many layers of blade path phantoms. He gazed at Fong Yuan deeply before smiling and rubbing his hands to ease the numbness from the previous force. But Meng Tu raised his head slightly at the tall Emperor Yama, his gaze filled with pity. You should never have come to find trouble for me here in Autumn Blade Plain. Actually, it was not wrong to find trouble for me here, but your timing is really bad. If it were when I had just come here, you might still have some chance at survival. But now, Meng Tu laughed, holding his hands behind his back as he shook his head. At the next moment, Fong Yuan continued after Meng Tu's words, but now, this place is already filled with your traces. Since years back, you have been comprehending Blade Path here, trying to break through to Blade Path Great Grandmaster Realm. Thus, you can greatly influence the Dao marks of this place to form an environment that is close to an immortal battlefield killer. Move. 1. Like this scene in front of me. Meng Tu's expression immediately changed. He had believed no one knew of his trump card, and thus had never expected Fong Yuan to not only be unsurprised, but also speak of his trump card in such a familiar way. Fong Yuan's low and deep voice continued, do you know why I am looking for trouble with you? It is precisely because you have this method which can form such a battlefield environment. This is close to an immortal battlefield, but it is still not a true immortal battlefield, with an essential difference that your influence is already at its maximum. You are unable to control it at will, so it might have trapped me, but aren't you also trapped? Meng Tu's pupils shrunk rapidly, his pleased mood had completely disappeared. Who exactly are you? He asked Fong Yuan nervously. Fong Yuan chuckled, looking at his surroundings. Although your blade path phantoms are in high numbers, their quality is not up to par. It happens that I also have a similar method. Why don't we spar a little? Fong Yuan's yellowish-brown emperor robe suddenly emitted countless howls and shrieks. Next, those ghostly monsters weaved on the surface of the robe came alive, and started to move, then jumped out of Fong Yuan's Emperor Yama robe one by one, turning from small to large. These ghostly monsters had human shapes, but they all had malevolent and terrifying faces, knife-like claws, and bloodshot eyes, looking quite horrifying. Kill! Meng Tu narrowed his eyes, as he mobilized his blade path phantoms to charge towards these ghostly monsters. These blade path phantoms all had his appearance, but their faces were vague, and compared to the size of the ghostly monsters, they were like rats against carriage wheels. The ghostly monsters howled and spread their huge arms like a tall tree waving its branches. Bang bang bang, all the blade path phantoms on their way were destroyed. The monsters ran amok while letting out crazed screams and howls, easily crushing all the blade path phantoms on their way. These ghostly monsters are really powerful, each having rank 7 battle strength. Meng Tu had rich battle experience, as he noticed this with just a short observation. His heart immediately felt as heavy as a mountain, his eyelids twitched violently. But it doesn't matter, my blade path phantoms are created from the natural Dao marks in Autumn Blade Plain which are almost endless. Although the quality is not good, it can be made up with the quantity. Meng Tu quickly calmed down. These Yama children have quite the battle strength. Fong Yuan assessed inwardly and was pleased. These ghostly monsters originated from the ancient soul beasts that Fong Yuan had gathered in Green Ghost Desert. After Fong Yuan deduced the killer move Emperor Yama, he modified these ancient soul beasts, changing them into human shapes and turning them into Yama children. This inspiration came from blood deity Immortal Gu's recipe. Fong Yuan was a grandmaster in blood path. With the light of wisdom's help, he had already completed the blood deity Immortal Gu recipe. The current Fong Yuan, with his refinement path quasi-supreme attainment, could change any Immortal Gu recipe into an immortal killer move. So Fong Yuan was able to grasp the immortal killer move blood deity. The killer move Yama child was deduced from consulting not only blood deity, but also some main contents of spectral soul's true inheritance. For example, soul beast modification. Spectral soul modified the soul beasts in the door of life and death, causing them to become loyal to him. They even faced Duke Long without fearing death. There was also another soul path immortal killer move, life and death retrieval. Spectral soul demon Venerable had created this immortal killer move by comprehending the secluded domain of heaven and earth, the door of life and death. What kind of place was the door of life and death? When any living being died, their soul would return to the door of life and death. It was only when Red Lotus Demon Venerable damaged Fate Gu that the door of life and death's power weakened greatly, allowing countless souls to linger behind in the living world to gradually turn into soul beasts. Life and death retrieval had the power to let the Gu immortal retrieve souls from the door of life and death. Fong Yuan completely merged this move into Emperor Yama, giving his Yama children the ability to instantly return. Soon, a Yama child gave a miserable shriek, its thigh was broken and it was knocked down onto the ground. Countless blade path phantoms immediately flocked towards it. But Fong Yuan willed, return. At the next moment, this Yama child immediately turned into fog which flew back into Fong Yuan's emperor robe, turning back into a monster image that was motionless, but was filled with injuries and a broken thigh. It can do this? Meng Tu was astonished once again. His hands, which had been held behind his back, were loosened as his gaze towards Fong Yuan turned somewhat stunned. This was too outrageous. Meng Tu had been intending to rely on quantity to kill every Yama child, but had not expected them to be able to return like this. Theoretically, any killer moves could be deciphered, but Meng Tu was a Blade Path Gu Immortal and not a Wisdom Path Gu Immortal. Even if he was a Wisdom Path Gu Immortal, against a rank 8 killer move like Emperor Yama, unless he was a Wisdom Path Great Expert, how could he decipher it on the spot? Even Fairy Zi Wei could not decipher it on the spot. When deducing Reverse Flow Protection Seal, she had to repeatedly gather clues from battles, continuously accumulating them before she was able to gain some results. Fong Yuan's Emperor Yama used Ghostly Concealment as its base. This rank 9 killer move was an artificial secluded domain of heaven and earth at the same level as Reverse Flow River. How could Meng Tu break it? Meng Tu simply could not deduce it. He could only summon his courage to continue fighting with Fong Yuan. However, the Yama children's quantity was limited. Although they killed a large amount of Blade Path Phantoms, the injuries accumulated to a serious degree and they were recalled by Fong Yuan. On the battlefield, there were fewer and fewer Yama children, while Blade Path Phantoms seemed to be unlimited. After all, Fong Yuan had limited time. He was not able to modify enough soul beasts. This battle has likely weakened Autumn Blade Plains' foundation by more than half. Meng Tu's expression was gloomy. The price he had to pay was high as he was using the whole of Autumn Blade Plain, the future benefits of Meng tribe, to engage in a battle of attrition with Fong Yuan. But regardless of how much he had to sacrifice, Meng Tu still persisted with this tactic. Fong Yuan's previous words had truly scared him. He had already regarded Fong Yuan as the strongest enemy in his life, so he was cautiously using any available methods to deal with Fong Yuan. But, this was also what Fong Yuan intended to attain with his words. Only this Meng Tu could be the best whetstone to test his Emperor Yama killer move. There were less than 10 Yama children left and they stood on guard beside Fong Yuan, while the unlimited number of Blade Path Phantoms surged towards them like a tidal wave. The speed of recovery is passable. Fong Yuan's expression did not change. he had been standing on the same spot from the start, unmoving like a millennium-old tree. By now, the first Yama child he had recalled to his emperor robe had already recovered completely. When these Yama children modified from soul beasts returned to the robe, they would start recovering from their injuries. Naturally, it expended Fong Yuan's soul foundation. This involved a profundity of Gu refinement. The Yama child was still a soul beast, and the healing, from another angle, was like a Gu refinement process. If I bring out these recovered Yama children, I wonder what expression Meng Tu will have. Fong Yuan smiled inwardly, but did not do this, instead using another method. Let me see Emperor Yama's offensive prowess. At the next moment, Fong Yuan inwardly called out, "Soul explosion." The Emperor Yama suddenly spread its arms, its whole body shook as vast waves of darkness erupted out from it. The Yama children were completely safe in the dark waves, only shaking like they were being blown at by a fierce wind. But those blade path phantoms were like weak candle flames under a storm, instantly extinguishing. In an instant, the whole battlefield was cleared, the unlimited blade lights were instantly destroyed. Meng Tu was sent back hundreds of steps from the soul explosion and was half kneeling on the ground. A glaring radiance was being emitted by his whole body as he pushed his defensive killer moves to their limits. Such power! Meng Tu quickly stood up and looked up at Fong Yuan with a shaken expression. This killer move is truly amazing. It should be a combination move containing both offense and defense. Its defense is so strong, and there is also the powerful method of sending out troops, but its strongest point is its offensive power. I have never seen or heard of this killer move. Was it created by this person? If so, then who in the world is this person who can create such a killer move? This soul explosion effect is decent, I suppose. Fong Yuan gave a nod of approval. One Yama child was completely used to create the power of a peak rank 7 killer move, but it still did not reach rank 8. Defense, Yama child, recovery, soul explosion, these aspects are all at the peak of rank 7. But Emperor Yama's true power lies in 2 other aspects. Let's try this. Just as Fong Yuan was thinking, Meng Tu had already charged over, shouting, "Come, try my killer move, Heaven and Earth Blade." Immortal killer move, Great Thief Ghost Hand. In an instant, a ghost hand, as if from the netherworld, that was as large as a handheld fan appeared behind Meng Tu and directly entered his body. It then came out, disappearing from sight once again. Puff! Meng Tu suddenly coughed out a mouthful of blood. The core immortal Gu of Heaven and Earth Blade was robbed, the killer move failed, and the backlash immediately inflicted serious injuries on him. What's going on? Where is my immortal Gu? Meng Tu's heart shook in unprecedented fright. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1565, Forced to Die. Chapter 1565, Forced to Die. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Previously, in Green Ghost Desert, Fong Yuan had used Great Thief Ghost Hand to steal rank 8 Immortal Gu Soul Beast token. Great Thief Ghost Hand was only a rank 7 move, and its core was rank 7 Great Thief Immortal Gu. But with the help of the killer move Yama, its power rose to the point where it could steal a rank 8 Immortal Gu from the legendary immemorial Soul Beast Qing Chao's body. Back then, Great Thief Ghost Hand's effective range was extremely short, which required Fong Yuan to get near the target. After returning, Fong Yuan modified Yama, adding in Great Thief Ghost Hand to form the completely new Emperor Yama killer move. Right now, Great Thief Ghost Hand not only had a long range of effectiveness, it also had the ability to conceal itself. It was not strange for Meng Tu to be struck by it, instead it would be unusual if he was not struck. This is your blade path Immortal Gu. Oh, a white butterfly's appearance and the size of a fist, is it Blade Wing Immortal Gu? Fong Yuan recalled the Great Thief Ghost Hand. He was holding a rank 7 Immortal Gu in his hand, which looked like a butterfly with layers of exquisite cloud patterns on its wings. Cold sweat dripped from Meng Tu's forehead. He was lying weakly on the ground, He looked at Fong Yuan with narrowed eyes and spoke in a hoarse voice, You actually seized an immortal Gu from my immortal aperture. Did you obtain a true inheritance of thieving heaven? True inheritance of thieving heaven, your guess is correct, I obtained one indeed. Fong Yuan sneered as he stored Blade Wing Immortal Gu into his immortal aperture right in front of Meng Tu, sealing it in Heaven's sealing mountain. Meng Tu's eyelids twitched violently. Blade Wing Immortal Gu was not his vital Gu, but he had raised it from its rank 5 Mortal Gu stage. He had failed dozens of times and expended a huge amount of resources, as well as time and energy to raise it. He had never expected there would be a day where it would be forcibly seized. Anger surged in Meng Tu's heart. But even more than anger was fear. Why did thieving heaven demon Venerable become a calamity of the world in the past? Wasn't it because of his immortal Gu stealing methods? Thieving heaven demon Venerable could even steal things that were hidden in immortal apertures. And now, Fong Yuan had reproduced thieving heaven demon Venerable's method. The nightmare that he had casted upon an entire era was like a thick layer of dark clouds that shrouded Meng Tu's heart. Meng Tu healed his injuries to the best of his abilities while speaking with a tensed expression. Since you are a theft path Gu immortal and have also inherited thieving heaven demon Venerable's true inheritance, then you should be aware of the rules set by your ancestor thieving heaven demon Venerable back then. Thieves have their own honor, always leave room for appeasement and never act too overbearingly. Since you have taken my Blade Wing Immortal Gu, what else do you want? If you want anything else, I can lend them to you. Back then, thieving heaven demon Venerable had rampaged throughout the world, with no one able to stop him. But thieving heaven demon Venerable was not evil by nature, he was good-natured at his core, he advocated honor and glory. All he wanted was to return home, his cultivation journey and resources stolen were meant for this purpose. After the 5 regions Gu immortals knew of his goal, as well as being aware that they could not defend against thieving heaven demon Venerable's methods, whenever they ran into thieving heaven demon Venerable, they would lend anything thieving heaven demon Venerable wanted as long as it did not endanger their lives. Thieving heaven demon Venerable did not have insatiable greed. After he obtained the things he wanted, he spared the lives of the Gu immortals and let them off. In most cases, he only took what he wanted, he did not care about other immortal Gu or immortal materials no matter how high their value was. Since Fong Yuan inherited thieving heaven demon Venerable's true inheritance and was thieving heaven's inheritor, Meng Tu knew he could not win, and since the situation was extremely bad, he directly asked for mercy. Fong Yuan frowned, mumbling, if you truly want to do this, it is also not impossible. Just as he was speaking, Fong Yuan's eyes suddenly glinted, pushing his hands forward as he activated Immortal Killer Move Soul Explosion. A vast wave of darkness immediately surged towards Meng Tu. Meng Tu did not dodge, instead laughing, you really thought that I, Meng Tu, am a person who begs for mercy? Just as he ended his words, he was submerged by the soul explosion's dark waves. But shortly afterwards, his body let out bright blade lights as he boldly self-detonated. Boom! A loud explosion with terrifying might threw chaos into the whole of Autumn Blade Plain. After the explosion, not even the corpse of Meng Tu remained, while Fong Yuan's Emperor Yama was mostly destroyed. The quasi-immortal battlefield that covered the entirety of Autumn Blade Plain also completely disintegrated, and Autumn Blade Plain's surface sank by 5 to 6 feet. Fong Yuan quickly used his investigative methods to scan the battlefield, and after several scans, he finally confirmed Meng Tu was truly dead. Meng Tu actually self-detonated. Fong Yuan was surprised and had a strange expression, he had not expected Meng Tu would be so bold and direct. This was clearly somewhat different from the memories in Fong Yuan's first life. If Meng Tu was someone who disregarded life and death, why would he have sided with Heavenly Court? It was because of this, Fong Yuan had felt Meng Tu was not strong-willed, so when Meng Tu asked for mercy, Fong Yuan subconsciously chose to believe him. Naturally, Fong Yuan never intended to let go of Meng Tu, but when he was about to make a move, Meng Tu had self-detonated one step ahead of him. Such determination and will was truly too straightforward. Maybe Meng Tu's nature was gradually changed by all kinds of events. After all, humans do change. Also, in my first life, it was Heavenly Court who made a move. They definitely used some exquisite methods and plans to instigate Meng Tuesday. Fong Yuan shook his head as he gave one final glance at Autumn Blade Plain before flying away quickly. Almost all the edge Gu in Autumn Blade Plain were destroyed after this battle. But their growth potential had become bigger, because with Meng Tu's self-detonation, all his blade path Dao marks were engraved in this land. Fong Yuan had obtained little benefit in this battle. Besides testing out Emperor Yama and obtaining the rank 7 Bladewing Immortal Gu, he did not achieve his original intention, which was Meng Tu's soul and immortal aperture. Meng Tu's firm resolution had decreased Fong Yuan's benefits. His goal was achieved. Even in death, he did not let the enemy obtain the maximum benefits. After Fong Yuan displayed Great Thief Ghost Hand, Meng Tu knew that his immortal Gu could be stolen one after the other by Fong Yuan. With his serious injuries and the fact he was trapped at this place, he had no hope of escaping, so he resolutely chose to self-detonate. From his point of view, it was a rather sensible action. It has always been difficult to prepare oneself for death. This Meng Tu has true courage. In my first life, he sided with Heavenly Court. He was cast aside by his tribe and Northern Plains Gu immortal world, sullying his reputation as a shameless person. This life, although he died, he will definitely have the glory of a fallen hero. Fong Yuan sighed inwardly. Regardless, his goal was still achieved after the battle. Before stealing Bladewing Immortal Gu, he had secretly taken out the drinking blade wine from deep underground. In the process, he had casually stolen hundreds of edge Gu, which was better than nothing. Fong Yuan retreated extremely quickly. Autumn Blade Plain was in the territory of Meng tribe. When Meng Tu saw Fong Yuan intruding, he would have definitely sent a message to the tribe. So not long later, Meng tribe will sense Meng Tu's death and many Gu immortals would come to inspect Autumn Blade Plain. The items were already obtained. Fong Yuan was looking towards the future when Northern Plains obstructed Heavenly Court's expansion, so it was not worthwhile to kill these Northern Plains Gu immortals, as it would weaken Northern Plains and be basically helping Heavenly Court. As he was not in a fight, Emperor Yama's robe gradually shrunk to a silk-like clothing, while the thin bronze armor on Fong Yuan's chest and back stuck to his muscles. Oh! Someone is deducing me. After a while of flying, Fong Yuan's expression suddenly changed. Meng tribe was a super force and had specially nurtured a wisdom path Gu immortal. They were definitely shaken by Meng Tu's death and were sure to look for the culprit. Fong Yuan held his breath, carefully looking at his Emperor Yama killer move. Emperor Yama's robe gradually expanded and continued to expand along with the increase in intensity of the deduction of Meng tribe's wisdom path Gu immortal. Fong Yuan was defending against the other side's deduction while also calculating his soul foundation expenditure. Meng tribe's wisdom path Gu immortal deduced for a while before stopping, gaining no results. Fong Yuan nodded, greatly pleased. Emperor Yama's defense against wisdom path deductions has become stronger and is at rank 8 level. Even if Fairy Z Wei deduces about me, I can block her. The conclusion was, Emperor Yama's defense and offense were at peak rank 7 level. The Yama children were extremely difficult to deal with. Not only could they act flexibly, they could also rapidly recover, and even if there were losses, they could easily be replenished with soul beast modification. Even more amazing was Great Thief Ghost Hand. This method could steal rank 8 Immortal Gu. In this battle, with just one attack, it had determined his victory, forcing Meng Tu, a peak rank 7 expert, to self-detonate. At a similar level to Great Thief Ghost Hand was Emperor Yama's defense against wisdom path deductions. This was also what Fong Yuan needed the most. However, Emperor Yama still has room for improvement. I should design an immortal battlefield killer move with Emperor Yama as the core. This time, Meng Tu sealed the area, isolating himself from the outside world. If he had not shot himself in the foot, he could have freely escaped, and it would have been much more difficult for me to kill him. Also, if I had an immortal battlefield killer move, when Meng Tu wanted to self-detonate, I would have sensed it one step earlier. Fong Yuan was always striving for improvements. He believed Emperor Yama could still be elevated further. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1566, Meng Tribe's Pursuit. Chapter 1566, Meng Tribe's Pursuit. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Two Gu immortals were flying rapidly in the sky. They had rough appearances and were tall and well-built. They were Meng Tribe Gu immortals Meng Zizai and Meng Zhao. Like Fong Yuan had expected, the moment he showed himself, Meng Tu sent the message of an attack to the tribe. But later, Meng Tu had used the blade path Dao marks to cover Autumn Blade Plain with an environment similar to an immortal battlefield. He was no longer able to send messages. With such an important message like an invading enemy, Meng Tribe naturally would not ignore it. They immediately sent a rank 7 Gu immortal, Meng Zizai, and a young rank 6 Gu immortal, Meng Zhao, to deal with the enemy. Uncle, who do you think this ignorant guy who dared to intrude on our Meng Tribe is? I think it is probably a demonic Gu immortal who cultivates alone without any contact with the outside world. Meng Zhao said with a smile towards Meng Zizai. Meng Zizai was stone-faced, but his eyes revealed a relaxed gaze as he agreed, your guess is logical, but you need to plan for the worst in everything. Currently, Longevity Heaven has appeared in front of everyone to unite every Huangjin tribe. Old ancestor Shui who has disappeared somewhere. Heavenly Lord Baizu has turned to the righteous path. The righteous path is at its peak. But there is actually someone who dared to go against the general trend and came to find trouble with my Huangjin tribe. This fellow is either a lunatic or has some background. This is why the tribe sent us as reinforcements to prevent against any accident. Uncle, you are right. But Meng Zhao paused before laughing. That person is truly unlucky. They went into Autumn Blade Plain which is guarded by Lord Meng Tuesday. Lord Meng Tu cultivates Blade Path and has Quasi-Great Grandmaster Blade Path attainment. He is ranked among the top 3 rank 7 experts in the tribe. He might not just be a Quasi-Great Grandmaster anymore. Meng Zizai sighed. Meng Zhao's eyes brightened. Uncle, you mean that? Meng Zizai smiled. He is the senior brother whom I admire the most in my life. No one in the tribe can match his talent in Blade Path. He has been cultivating in Autumn Blade Plain for the past years. With his talent, he should have reached Great Grandmaster realm. Blade Path Great Grandmaster. He is indeed worthy of being Lord Meng Tu. Meng Zhao said excitedly. Haha, that's right. Meng Zizai laughed. He had received a lot of care from Meng Tu in his cultivation. He held Meng Tu in the highest regard. So when Meng Tu messaged the tribe about the enemy, Meng Zizai requested to be sent to aid Meng Tuesday. In fact, he had utmost confidence in Meng Tu, and he only came to catch up on old times with Meng Tu and introduce Meng Zhao to him. Meng Zhao had been carefully picked by Meng Zizai as a Gu Immortal Junior to be nurtured by the tribe. Meng tribe also had various factions representing their respective political benefits. Meng Tu and Meng Zizai were of the same faction. Meng Zhao was selected by Meng Zizai to draw in new blood to this faction. Meng Zhao also knew the significance of this trip, so he was very excited. Autumn Blade Plain is not far away from here. We can see senior brother after a short while. Sigh, I have not seen him for a few years. If he could become a Blade Path Great Grandmaster, it will be a huge help to our faction. Meng Zizai inwardly thought. But right at this time, his body suddenly shook violently, then his expression paled, and his eyes widened in extreme shock. Uncle? What's wrong? Meng Zhao noticed the change in Meng Zizai's expression and was doubtful. Since meeting Meng Zizai, he had never seen this calm uncle show such an appearance. But Meng Zhao saw Meng Zizai becoming even more abnormal. Meng Zizai had unknowingly lowered his speed, before finally floating in the air without moving like a statue. His expression was deathly pale, his eyes were red and tears actually dripped down. Meng Zhao's heart shook even more. Something huge had definitely happened, but he did not dare to continue asking. He could only accompany Meng Zizai as they faced the chilling wind. Meng Zizai was dazed for a good while before his expression changed once again. He looked terrifying, his eyes filled with raging fury. Meng Zizai gave a loud shout. The shout was like thunder, resonating over all the surroundings. He then shot forward at an extremely fast speed. Meng Zhao was caught off guard, but quickly followed after coming back to his senses. But how could his speed compare to the rank 7 Gu immortal Meng Zizai? Soon, he was thrown far behind. Meng Zhao was very puzzled. What's going on? He had a bad feeling in his heart. Wait a moment. Uncle's direction is towards Autumn Blade Plain. Has Lord Meng Tu met with danger? Meng Zhao's whole body shivered at this thought. If it were really like this, then this was no doubt like a nightmare to him, and was very bad news for Meng tribe as well. If Meng Tu, who had peak rank 7 battle strength, died, then it was an extremely great loss for Meng tribe. Meng Zhao hurried to Autumn Blade Plain with all his strength. What happened here? Meng Zhao was shocked. Before even reaching Autumn Blade Plain, he could sense the surging blade path Dao marks in the air. Autumn Blade Plain's original layout was already completely destroyed, replaced by countless blade marks which crazily cut across the land, forming pits and trenches all over the area. Meng Zhao soon saw Meng Zizai kneeling on the ground, still like a statue. He carefully descended to the ground. The dense blade path Dao marks here stabbed into his skin, causing him to feel bursts of pain. He walked to Meng Zizai's side and shockingly discovered streams of tears on the latter's cheeks. Meng Zhao only saw Meng Zizai in Autumn Blade Plain, he did not see Meng Tuesday. That guess in his mind immediately became more distinct by countless times, causing his expression to involuntarily turn into that of fright. Meng Zizai slowly opened his eyes and looked at Meng Zhao, saying in a deep and hoarse voice that let anyone that heard it know the intense pain and anger he was restraining in his heart. Brother Meng Tu has died in battle. Meng Zhao's whole body shivered. Despite already guessing it, when he heard Meng Zizai verifying it, he still could not endure the extreme shock. Meng Tu had actually died in battle. With his battle strength, who could kill him? Meng Zhao opened his mouth, and after a long while, said, "Uncle, Lord Meng Tu is so powerful, how could he be so easily killed? Maybe he is still alive and has only shifted the battle elsewhere." But Meng Zizai slowly shook his head. When we were on the way just before, the tribe sent me a message saying Meng Tu's soul lantern was extinguished. But I still held hope, until I arrived here. His voice choked as tears flowed out of his eyes once again. A man does not easily shed tears, unless it is truly a heart-wrenching matter. Meng Zizai continued in a weak voice, "I know he has a killer move called Blade Sacrifice, which is a self-destruction method. It destroys his immortal aperture, immortal Gu, and other resources to let out an unprecedentedly terrifying might. Using this move means he is definitely dead." If so, Meng Zhao quickly looked at the whole battlefield, feeling even more shocked. Meng Tu was dead. Such a powerful Gu immortal had actually died, forced to self-detonate within such a short period of time. Who in the world was the enemy? All kinds of past events and memories surfaced in Meng Zizai's mind. He had never expected a situation where Meng Tu died. Meng Zizai cried for a while before slowly standing up. His face turned expressionless as he said to Meng Zhao, "You should return, our Meng tribe definitely won't let the matter of Meng Tu's death go. But this enemy is unimaginably powerful." Meng Tu had immediately sent a message when the enemy appeared. We also moved out at once, moving here without resting the whole journey. But in such a short period of time, Meng Tu was unable to protect himself and was forced to self-detonate by the enemy. I know his temperament, he probably wanted to use this move to drag the enemy with him. But from the looks of it, there is no traces of the enemy's death. This is a powerful enemy which even Blade Sacrifice could not kill. I must give chase, I will catch the culprit even if I have to spend my whole life. This is beyond your ability, you should return to the tribe and cultivate, don't let this news be exposed. Meng Zhao nodded with a heavy heart, I understand, you must be careful, uncle. With Meng Tu's death, Meng tribe had lost a capable expert and this was not a light loss to them. At the same time, they had got in trouble with a powerful enemy with a mysterious origin and unknown goal. Meng tribe would seal this news for the moment to maintain stability. As for Meng Zhao, his cultivation was too low and his status was not high, which could be seen from how the tribe had still not informed him of Meng Tu's death. Don't worry. Second Supreme Elder is personally coming with the Immortal Gu House investigation courtyard. Meng Zai patted Meng Zhao's shoulder. Meng Zhao nodded his head, putting his heart at rest as he left. With Immortal Gu House investigation courtyard, they did not have to fear even if they encountered a rank 8 existence. Meng Zhao did not have to wait for long as he saw investigation courtyard appear in the horizon. Not long later, investigation courtyard came to a stop. Meng tribe's second supreme elder walked out of the courtyard, nodding at Meng Zai solemnly before immediately starting to inspect the battlefield. But why would Fong Yuan leave behind any clues? After Meng tribe's second supreme elder finished inspecting, his expression turned even heavier. Meng Zai said, "This mysterious enemy is very clean with their methods. I have already inspected the battlefield earlier. They have dealt with the traces with extreme proficiency." Meng tribe's second supreme elder nodded his head, "No worries, we have investigation courtyard here." Investigation courtyard was an information path Immortal Gu House. Its specialty was to gather information. Meng tribe's second supreme elder immediately activated one of its killer moves. They actually managed to find some clues. He went in that direction, chase. Meng tribe's 2 Gu immortals entered the Immortal Gu House and chased after Fong Yuan with fury and hatred. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1567, Frontback Divine Obstruction Needles. Chapter 1567, Frontback Divine Obstruction Needles. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. The clues end here. Meng tribe's Immortal Gu House investigation courtyard slowly stopped in the air. Meng tribe's 2 Gu immortals looked at each other. Meng Zai looked ahead at a lush valley that was starkly different from the surrounding grassland. Such a valley would not form naturally, but the 2 Meng tribe immortals were not surprised. Meng tribe's second supreme elder said in a heavy voice, "This is Sleeping Lady's Divine Needle Valley." Meng Zai frowned, "Is it her?" Meng tribe's second supreme elder was silent. Sleeping Lady was a rank 7 lone immortal who cultivated sound path. She did not have outstanding battle strength, but she controlled an immemorial desolate beast Divine Hedgehog. This Divine Hedgehog was a sword path immemorial desolate beast, and had an ability to shoot out all the spines on its body, which was extremely fast and had terrifying power. Sleeping Lady created Divine Needle Valley, being in control of the area between Meng tribe and Murong tribe. She not only had the powerful method to control an immemorial desolate beast, her political wisdom was also excellent. She lived right between the 2 super forces, so no side dared to truly go against her. Because if one side did that, Sleeping Lady could easily side with the other super force. The 2 Meng tribe Gu immortals were silent. The situation could become messy. They followed the clues here, but they had not actually obtained any specific information regarding Fong Yuan. Sleeping Lady's own strength was not Meng Tu's match, but if she sent the Divine Hedgehog, she might be able to kill Meng Tu. This indeed made her a suspect. But this matter was troublesome to handle. Meng tribe and Murong tribe had quite a good relationship with Sleeping Lady. They had expressed goodwill to her since long ago, trying to win her over and preventing her from siding with the other party. The relationship between Meng tribe and Murong tribe was obviously not good. Every super force had an instinct to expand their territories. Meng tribe and Murong tribe were so close to each other, how could their relationship be good? If Sleeping Lady was the culprit, how could she have such guts by herself? So it was very likely she had already sided with Murong tribe. As a super force in a righteous Huang Jin tribe, Murong tribe could not attack another righteous path super force for no reason, so it was entirely possible for them to have used Sleeping Lady as the front. If Sleeping Lady was not the culprit, then how should the 2 Meng tribe Gu immortals investigate? Slight carelessness might make Sleeping Lady develop thoughts of siding with Murong tribe, then Meng tribe's losses would undoubtedly be even bigger. The two Gu immortals pondered for a long while before Second Supreme Elder finally said, "Let's go, we will make a visit to Sleeping Lady and inform her of Meng Tu's death. Only by being open and direct will Sleeping Lady realize our Meng tribe's intention. After all, the clues stop at her Divine Needle Valley." Meng Tu nodded his head. Investigation Courtyard had not concealed its traces, so the two Meng tribe Gu immortals' arrival had already startled Sleeping Lady. However, Sleeping Lady maintained her composure. She had the qualifications and the confidence to cope with all situations, patiently waiting for the two Meng tribe Gu immortals to come to her. When Meng tribe's two immortals reached her residence, they immediately narrated the situation to her. She then understood the situation and also realized how serious this matter was. First, she declared her innocence, which was immediately verified by the Meng tribe Gu immortals. Secondly, she herself was worried when she heard that the clues disappeared in Divine Needle Valley. This mysterious culprit could kill Meng Tu. He definitely has powerful methods and terrifying battle strength. Friends, please do me a favor by coming with me to inspect the whole Divine Needle Valley. Sleeping Lady took the initiative to ask for help. Meng tribe's two immortals were joyous. This was what they wanted, so they immediately agreed. The three immortals moved in a group, carefully searching Divine Needle Valley. Sleeping Lady was afraid too. She had some knowledge of Investigation Courtyard's power. Since the clues disappeared in Divine Needle Valley, it was very likely the culprit was still hiding in her valley. Since this mysterious culprit could so viciously kill Meng Tu, why would he not be able to deal with her? The three immortals searched for a long while but gained no results. Meng tribe's two immortals glanced at each other, the second Supreme Elder intentionally saying, "We have searched almost the whole Divine Needle Valley, is the killer really not here?" Meng Zizai pretended to unintentionally reply, "Isn't there still an area which we have not searched?" Sleeping Lady knew these two were putting on a show, but she was not the culprit and sincerely wanted to search this place, so she nodded, "I specially designed this Divine Needle Valley for the Divine Hedgehog. Only the deepest area of the valley is left now, please follow me." Meng tribe's Gu immortals followed Sleeping Lady to the depths of the valley. An enormous pure white hedgehog was resting at the dark valley floor. It was sleeping in a curled-up position, its breaths were long and slow. It was covered with extremely sharp spines which were full of sword path Dao marks. The divine hedgehog was as large as a hill. Meng tribe's two Gu immortals slowly flew to its side. They were like ants in front of a carriage wheel. Such an amazing immemorial desolate beast. Meng tribe's second supreme elder softly praised. Sleeping Lady's expression somewhat softened. This was her most important capital that allowed her to survive in between two super forces. Meng tribe's second supreme elder carefully inspected before saying, "This batch of front-back divine obstruction needles seems to have very high quality. Sleeping Lady, when are you picking them?" The sharp spines on the divine hedgehog's body were rank 8 immortal materials that could be plucked. Every sharp spine was a front-back divine obstruction needle. Every time the divine hedgehog encounters a dangerous situation, it would shoot out all its sharp spines to kill the enemy. These released spines naturally could not be put back. When the divine hedgehog goes to sleep, new spines would once again grow on its body. Sleeping Lady had unique methods which could make the divine hedgehog fall into deep sleep constantly. Doing that after feeding it till it's full, Sleeping Lady gained an economic pillar which was the business of front-back divine obstruction needles. These front-back divine obstruction needles were mostly sold to Meng tribe and Murong tribe, while the remaining small portion was put on sale in Treasure Yellow Heaven. Sleeping Lady thus was quite well off. Northern Plains was poor in resources, but Sleeping Lady relied on this divine hedgehog to live a far better life than most of the Northern Plains Gu immortals. "I will pick them up soon, there will be 436 needles this time," Sleeping Lady replied seriously. There were over 1,000 spines on the divine hedgehog, but Sleeping Lady needed to leave behind those short spines to continue growing. What she plucked were the longest spines. Also, she could not sell all the spines, because without these spines, the divine hedgehog's battle strength would fall severely. "Let's start," Meng Zizai suggested. "Please examine carefully, I will make the divine hedgehog remain asleep," Sleeping Lady said. Meng Tribe's 2 Gu immortals began to search for clues with investigation courtyard. The commotion was huge, but Sleeping Lady's sound path killer move made the divine hedgehog remain deep asleep. If the divine hedgehog was startled awake, it would definitely become furious and vent its anger on them, attacking randomly. Sleeping Lady had not completely subdued this beast. After all, she was not an enslavement path Gu immortal. We have a new clue. After a long while of searching, Meng Zizai suddenly said with a spirited expression. Sleeping Lady was terrified. This person actually infiltrated this deep into the valley and I did not sense it. The 3 immortals followed the trails, found that it continued deeper down. The 3 immortals followed the trail all the way, unknowingly reaching deep underground where the clues increased further. Not long later, the trail changed direction, winding up towards the surface. The 3 immortals followed the trail cautiously, arriving at the surface after a while. This is the territory of Murong tribe. It is hundreds of li away from Divine Needle Valley. Meng tribe's second supreme elder frowned. The clues completely disappeared here. Meng Zizai's gaze flickered. Sleeping Lady fell silent. She would not make any statements in such a delicate juncture. The 3 immortals inspected the surroundings for a long while, but did not find any other clues. Sleeping Lady proposed to return to her valley to rest. Meng tribe's 2 immortals had not found any clues, so after thinking for a moment, they agreed. But how could they have known when they returned to the valley? There was a shocking discovery waiting for them. The extraordinary divine hedgehog was still in a deep sleep, but its whole body was bare. All the front-back divine obstruction needles were gone. What's going on? My divine obstruction needles. I had stayed guard in Divine Needle Valley without going out for 100 years, spending a large amount of food to feed the divine hedgehog and not stinting on repeatedly using my killer move to make it sleep before I was able to get it to this scale. Sleeping Lady was pale with shock as she shouted in an anguished voice. Meng tribe's 2 immortals looked at each other, cold sweat dripping from their forehead, because they suddenly realized they were used by someone. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1568, Sleeping Lady Spits Blood. Chapter 1568, Sleeping Lady Spits Blood. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. I want Meng Tribe to give me an explanation, now. Otherwise, although I might be a lone cultivator, I won't let this matter drop. Sleeping Lady fiercely stared at the 2 Meng Tribe immortals. Her losses were truly disastrous. This caused her to be so anxious and furious that she directly demanded for an explanation even though the other side was Meng Tribe. She was not like Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan lost his guts Gu business but still had many income sources like dragonfish business, spirit snake transactions, regretful spiders, eerie fire dragon python and so on. To Sleeping Lady, losing these front-back divine obstruction needles was the same as losing her main financial pillar. Although she still had the divine hedgehog, to regrow the front-back divine obstruction needles would require time as well as an enormous investment. Sleeping Lady had a long-term plan. Every time she harvested some front-back divine obstruction needles, she did not pick all of them, instead leaving behind most of them to continue growing. But the person who stole the front-back divine obstruction needles was too vicious. They did not leave behind even one tiny spine for Sleeping Lady. Sleeping Lady's losses were not only those spines which had grown to the limit, her future prospects were also affected. A pity that I don't have methods to move this immemorial desolate beast into my immortal aperture. Putting it outside is truly not safe. Sleeping Lady's fists trembled. She even had a passing thought of suiciding. But actually, even if she could move it, it would be troublesome. First of all, she did not have full control over the divine hedgehog. If this immemorial desolate beast acted up inside her immortal aperture, she would suffer severe losses. Secondly, if Sleeping Lady was about to undergo tribulation, heavens would send much more powerful calamities and tribulations that would specifically target the divine hedgehog. Finally, the divine hedgehog was Sleeping Lady's trump card to survive between Meng tribe and Murong tribe. If she placed it in her immortal aperture, and there was a fight in the future, she might not be able to release it in time to face the enemies. Sleeping lady, calm down, please calm down for a second. Meng tribe's second supreme elder repeatedly persuaded. Calm down. How can I calm down? You said a murder happened, Meng Tu died in battle. Alright, I believed your Meng tribe, and without verifying the truth, I let you guys in and even warmly welcomed you. You said you found evidence, but I did not find anything and only relied on your investigation courtyard. Later, there were indeed obvious clues, but were they truly left behind by the culprit? Does investigation courtyard not have an ability to tamper with clues? As she said this, cold sweat dripped down sleeping lady's forehead. She calmed down and looked vigilantly at the two Meng tribe immortals. A large amount of Gu worm auras started spreading from her body. Sleeping lady fixed her gaze at the two Meng tribe immortals while slowly retreating. Meng tribe's two immortals could only smile bitterly, but also understood sleeping lady's mentality. Right now, the divine hedgehog had lost all its spines, its battle strength had fallen to an all-time low, which was like sleeping lady's own battle strength falling down sharply. The trump card which she had used to have dealings with the two super forces was now mostly gone. How could sleeping lady not be vigilant? Meng tribe's second supreme elder sighed bitterly. Sleeping lady, if this was really planned out by my tribe to plot against you to secretly steal this divine hedgehog's spines, why would we bother returning with you? If we were plotting against you, we should have already deceived you into a trap like an immortal battlefield using the excuse of finding the trails of the culprit, don't you think so? Sleeping lady was silent for a moment before moving her eyes upward. That is probably because your Meng tribe belongs to the righteous path and has to abide by rules, so you can't directly make a move against me. On the other hand, I have already set an agreement with your Meng tribe, so you made this plan of lowering my battle strength first and then using eloquent speech to deceive me. Meng tribe's two immortals could not help but glance at each other. Sleeping lady's words were not unreasonable. Her quick thinking made Meng tribe's two immortals not know of what to say. Humph. Sleeping lady continued, you thought I am not aware of your righteous path's tricks. You started this. If your Meng tribe won't give me an explanation, then alright, I will let the world be the judge of it. Stop. Meng tribe's second supreme elder quickly shouted, his and Meng Zai's expressions were ashen. But it was too late. Sleeping lady directly revealed this matter in Treasure Yellow Heaven. She quickly informed Murong tribe through her contacts. In an instant, the matter Meng tribe had tried hard to hide about Meng Tu being killed, them being unable to find the culprit, and even implicating Sleeping lady in losing her front-back divine obstruction needles, were completely revealed. You. Meng Zai pointed toward Sleeping lady, his eyes were almost spouting fire of anger. Meng tribe's second supreme elder was also ashen-faced as he gazed at Sleeping lady with narrowed eyes and killing intent. Sleeping lady's expression was impassive, but was inwardly smiling bitterly. She of course knew her action had greatly harmed her and Meng tribe's relationship. But she had no other options. She had to do this. Any alliance agreement had the chance of being broken by one side. Today's matter was also too severe. Sleeping lady had to protect herself. How could she, whose battle strength had fallen to rock bottom, protect herself? Even if Meng Tu died, the superforce Meng tribe was still not something a rank 7 lone immortal like Sleeping lady could go against. Sleeping lady believed the best method was to borrow the strength of others, to attract the attention of other Gu immortals and Meng tribe's competitor, Murong tribe, to this matter and support her to some extent. Even if Meng tribe had some harmful intentions, they would have to restrain themselves. After all, they were a righteous path force. Sleeping lady, at this point, any more words have no meaning. But I will tell you not to be so suspecting, we were likely used by that person. Meng tribe's second supreme elder said in a deep voice. The situation was obvious now. Even if the two Meng tribe immortals did not cultivate wisdom path, they could deduce that the culprit was extremely vicious, not to mention how they had inexplicably forced Meng Tu to self-detonate. They intentionally left behind clues to lead Meng tribe's pursuers to Divine Needle Valley. They then used them to lead Sleeping lady away, which allowed them to conveniently take away all the spines of the divine hedgehog. Our Meng tribe will give you an explanation. Before leaving, Meng Tribe's second Supreme Elder left behind this sentence. Meng Tribe's two immortals left. Sleeping Lady immediately began to arrange a Gu formation around the immemorial desolate beast Divine Hedgehog. Meng Tribe had lost their clues, so they could only head back. Even if they obtained any clues now, they would be doubtful if this was another trap by the enemy. Inside investigation courtyard, Meng Zizai suddenly said with a fierce glint in his eyes, "This culprit is really crafty. The matter has been exposed now and the whole world knows of it. How about we just sentence Sleeping Lady as the culprit?" Whether Sleeping Lady was the culprit or not, if Meng Tribe attacked and killed her, they could regain their prestige, resolving this crisis to their reputation. And who is to say they won't be able to get the immemorial desolate beast Divine Hedgehog? Meng Tribe's second Supreme Elder sighed, "I also thought of this. But, firstly, Investigation Courtyard is not able to deal with Sleeping Lady and the Divine Hedgehog in a short period of time. This place is also close to Murong Tribe, there is no guarantee of them not interfering. Secondly, we have an alliance agreement with her, and will suffer a heavy backlash if we rashly attack her. Finally, the current Northern Plains situation is not the same as before. At present, Longevity Heaven had appeared in front of the world, Yao Huang had taken the position of South Desolation Immortal, and Longevity Heaven was uniting all the Huang Jin tribes. In this period of time, they were dedicating themselves to integrate the strength of Northern Plains Gu Immortal World. Righteous Path forces were basically all Huang Jin tribes, there was almost no need to integrate them. Longevity Heaven's first plan was thus to merge lone cultivators with the Righteous Path. This plan was, however, slightly obstructed when Heavenly Court sent someone disguised as Fong Yuan. But Longevity Heaven still had not given up, they continued to make effort in this plan. Thus, as a Huang Jin tribe, if Meng Tribe rashly attacked the lone immortal Sleeping Lady and did not handle it properly, they would be investigated and blamed by Longevity Heaven. This was what Meng Tribe's second Supreme Elder had the most worries about. As the two Meng Tribe immortals were heading back, Fong Yuan was also rushing back. A pile of front-back divine obstruction needles was quietly lying inside his sovereign immortal aperture. Indeed, he was the culprit behind the entire matter. Fong Yuan knew a lot about Meng Tribe, and with his wisdom path attainment, he arranged a simple but effective trap. And with his powerful luck, Sleeping Lady was indeed drawn away, letting him immediately succeed in this plan. Ordinary Gu immortals might not be able to get near the Divine Hedgehog, after all, their auras were distinct. But Fong Yuan had familiar face and could completely disguise as Sleeping Lady. Even when the Divine Hedgehog slowly opened its eyes, he did not panic. The Divine Hedgehog went to sleep once again, Fong Yuan was able to pluck all its spines. After obtaining them, Fong Yuan did not do anything to the sleeping Divine Hedgehog, he directly left. In his first life's memories, Sleeping Lady was also one of the experts who resisted Heavenly Court. As for the Divine Hedgehog, why would he take it? It was of little value to Fong Yuan, instead it was better to let it continue to remain in Sleeping Lady's hands. When Sleeping Lady nurtures a new batch of spines again, Fong Yuan could then come again to steal it. Fong Yuan had no guilt even when killing others, let alone just stealing things. Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable was indeed amazing to be able to create a path like Theft Path. Fong Yuan had tasted its sweet benefits and now had a whole new view of Theft Path. In the battle with Meng Tu, it was Great Thief Ghost Hand which determined the victory at once. If it had gone normally, Fong Yuan could not have so easily taken Meng Tu's life. Before Theft Path's appearance, Gu immortals could fight each other to death but still might not be able to obtain much battle spoils. But with Theft Path's appearance, they could obtain resources without the need to fight a life or death battle. The costs are reduced while the efficiency is raised, this is simply too amazing. Unfortunately, right now is not a good time for me to go around stealing. On one hand, I lack Theft Path Immortal Gu, and only have the rank 7 Immortal Gu Great Thief to support my Theft Path moves. On the other hand, I have already exposed Great Thief Ghost Hand back in Western Desert. If I go around robbing all over the place, someone will probably connect the clues and deduce my true identity. There is still a crucial immortal material lacking from the Myriad Self Immortal Gu recipe. After this, I will hurry back to Langya blessed land and refine Myriad self-immortal Gu. Although Fong Yuan had some theft path methods, he could not overdo it. Because his soul cultivation was the more urgent matter. Increasing his soul foundation meant he could make more use of Emperor Yama, his battle strength as well as plans would be guaranteed. But cultivating soul required guts Gu, required soul cores, and also required the goods from Green Ghost Desert. Swan Bujin's identity needed to be kept a secret. This was a chain of requirements. Oh right, I also cannot let this matter be easily revealed. Fong Yuan snickered, immediately spreading rumors in Treasure Yellow Heaven, saying Sleeping Lady was lying and scheming against Meng tribe. The front-back divine obstruction needles were kept by herself in preparation to undergo tribulation and advance to a higher level. The truth was even more obscured now, which was even more helpful in concealing Fong Yuan. As for Sleeping Lady, when she learned of these rumors, she immediately spat out blood from anxiety and anger. Naturally, this was of no concern to Fong Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1569, 50%. Chapter 1569, 50%. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Treasure Yellow Heaven. A large lump of transparent fire was silently burning while letting out vast treasure light. The fire immediately attracted the attention of many Gu immortals the moment it appeared. Many wills and a few divine senses were attracted towards the scene. Black Heaven Temple's Gu immortal Xianxia smiled. He was the owner of this transparent fire. I never expected this expedition to give me a batch of a rare rank 7 immortal material. Its profits should be enough to replenish my immortal essence reserves. While thinking, he responded to everyone's questions about the price. His price was only a slight bit higher than the norm, so many had the thoughts of purchasing. I want all of this. One divine sense directly contacted Xianxia, offering a high price. Xianxia's heart thumped in excitement, somewhat disbelieving. You want all of this? The price. Make the deal. The other side was extremely straightforward, directly giving a large amount of immortal essence stones. Okay. Seeing such a huge amount of immortal essence stones, Xianxia's eyes immediately brightened, agreeing immediately. The transaction was completed quickly. The Gu immortals who were observing the fire were somewhat caught off guard. No need to worry, I still have stock left. Xianxia's divine sense was constantly fluctuating. He quickly proclaimed and took out another lump of transparent fire. It was just that this transparent fire's amount was much smaller than the previously sold lump. The first transaction had stimulated other Gu immortals' desire to purchase. After all, this transparent fire was indeed rare in the market. Usually, they could only accumulate it over continuous purchase, and every purchase was normally only a fist-sized or a basin-sized lump of fire. They were different from now where the transparent fire was the size of a carriage. They could not lose this rare opportunity. But this time, I am going to raise the price. Xianxia's smile became brighter. He did not have much knowledge of the transparent fire. This was also his first time selling it and he did not have a proper understanding of the market situation, so the enthusiasm of other Gu immortals was beyond his expectations. He continued to raise the price, but few buyers gave up, so the starting price continued to become higher. Darn it, looks like I made a mistake in selling earlier. Xianxia looked at this scene with some regret, while also admiring that buyer's decisiveness. Xianxia was not foolish. He had divided his stock of transparent fire into 3 portions. The first portion was to test the waters, while the one he was selling now was the second portion. As the transactions continued to increase, he got a clearer grasp over the market situation. Floating life fire. Fong Yuan looked at this lump of transparent fire in his sovereign immortal aperture with a delighted expression. It was him who took the lead and purchased Xianxia's goods. This floating life fire was transparent and burned silently without any heat. But when it burns a living being, all kinds of past scenes of this living being would turn into images that would constantly replay in the floating life fire. At that time, the floating life fire would emit a multicolored radiance, and would no longer be transparent. Floating life fire needed to be preserved with special methods. Zhang Ji had coincidentally obtained a large amount of floating life fire, he did not have such methods. After Fong Yuan obtained it, he immediately used a method to preserve the floating life fire. This method was not from Spectral Soul's true inheritance, but was obtained from Xianxia true inheritance which he had exchanged Spectral Soul's true inheritance for. I had thought I needed to travel far and find trouble with other people to seize this floating life fire. Who would have thought that someone was selling it in treasure yellow heaven in such a large quantity now? This luck is truly amazing. Fong Yuan smiled. There were bound to be many Gu immortals who wanted to purchase floating life fire. But Gu immortal wills were usually unable to make the decision, they could only follow the commands left by the Gu immortal. And to be able to take out so many immortal essence stones at once was also not something ordinary Gu immortals could do. Even if they had the capital, those observing Gu immortals would want to bargain as the amount they required was usually not that big. Because of many reasons, Fong Yuan was able to make the first move and gain it for a cheap price. As for the risk, this Zhang Ji was a Gu immortal of Black Heaven Temple, a person of heavenly court, but he did not know the buyer was Fong Yuan, neither did Fong Yuan know of his identity. Transactions in Treasure Yellow Heaven were very secure. If Heavenly Court was able to use this to scheme against Fong Yuan, to have such a deep influence even in Treasure Yellow Heaven, then it was better for Fong Yuan to just surrender. All in all, the chance of this was rather low. Drinking Blade Wine, Edge Gu, Front-Back Divine Obstruction Needles, and Floating Life Fire, these four main immortal materials were all gathered. Fong Yuan still had to purchase some more Edge Gu, which could be completely satisfied by Treasure Yellow Heaven, if not, he still had a channel left in Western Desert's Shao Clan. Since there was no meaning in staying outside, Fong Yuan hurried back to Xianxia Blessed Land. Passing through the Immortal Formation, Fong Yuan returned to Xianxia Blessed Land. The process was smooth with no danger. Fong Yuan's return was much earlier than expected, this made Xianxia Land's spirit extremely happy. Since you have returned, I will prepare for the refinement. Xianxia Land's spirit was extremely active, the pressure from Heavenly Court was really too huge. I still need to thank First Supreme Elder and the Gu Immortals of the other three races for lending me so many Immortal Essence Stones. Fong Yuan thanked. Without their assistance, how could Fong Yuan take out such a huge sum? Don't stand on ceremony. We are all on the same side, you getting stronger means Xianxia Blessed Land will be even more safe. If Xianxia Blessed Land is in danger, they also won't be able to escape due to the alliance agreement. Xianxia Land's spirit's reply was direct and frank. Indeed, the present situation made it such that Xianxia sect as well as the Snowmen, Rockmen, and Ink Men were in the same boat. If anyone encountered danger, the rest would not be able to escape. Fong Yuan handed the four immortal materials to Xianxia sect to process. These immortal materials required at least 15 days of processing, the steps were extremely tedious, repetitive and complicated. This was the case when all the hairy man Gu immortals of Xianxia sect put in their full effort. The superiority of Myriad Self Gu's recipe could be seen from this. With his refinement path Quasi Supreme Grandmaster attainment, Fong Yuan's Myriad Self Gu recipe was so outstanding that it could be said to have reached the limits of the world with no room left for improvements. The crucial procedures of the Gu refinement were shortened to the limit, there were 3 in total. While the other procedures had over 10,000 steps, most of them were the processing of the immortal materials. Fong Yuan processed the immortal materials to their best state, spending most of his effort in this. Even if the expenditure of the immortal materials increased because of this, he did not hesitate. Because these procedures were the ones which Gu immortals could control. While those crucial steps of the Gu refinement could only rely on the collision and interweaving of the Tao marks, Gu immortals could not control these changes. Through this method and with the help of Xianxia sect's Gu refinement abilities, the success rate of Fong Yuan's Myriad Self Gu recipe was at an incredibly high 50%. That meant Fong Yuan had an equal chance to succeed or fail in refining it. 50% success rate was truly too terrifying. The absolute majority of Gu immortals would be happy if they had even 1% success rate when refining Gu. However, this was also mainly because Fong Yuan was a refinement path quasi-supreme grandmaster. How many refinement path quasi-supreme grandmasters were there in the world? Since ancient times until now, an expert at Fong Yuan's level could be counted with one's fingers. Those who surpassed his level only amounted to 3 people in the whole of history. Moreover, there were extremely few Gu immortals who cultivated multiple paths, and how many of them would cultivate refinement path? From another angle, most Gu immortals were actually amateurs in refining immortal Gu. It would be preposterous if they could raise the success rate of the Gu refinement. In fact, even Fong Yuan, who had deduced it, was in slight disbelief over the 50% success rate. But then he thought of Long Hair Ancestor. Long Hair Ancestor had refined many immortal Gu in his life, including rank 7 and rank 8 immortal Gu. He was a refinement path supreme grandmaster. If he did not have such a success rate, would Giant Sun Immortal Venerable and Thieving Heaven Demon Venerable find him for help? Furthermore, I am making use of the whole of Lanya sect's strength to refine this Gu. In the present age, when comparing refinement path attainment, Lanya sect should no doubt be the number 1 force. Besides these, the third main reason is my powerful luck. First was his refinement path quasi-supreme grandmaster attainment level, second was the number 1 refinement force's all-out help, and third was the powerful luck obtained from Giant Sun's true inheritance. 3 big reasons combined to form this 50% success rate of Myriad Self Immortal Gu's refinement. I am finally free from the curse of refining immortal Gu. Fong Yuan was extremely moved to the point of having the urge to tear up. He knew the most important reason was him becoming a refinement path quasi-supreme grandmaster. The other 2 reasons were helpful, but they were more or less present in all the previous Gu refinements. His 50% success rate was mainly still brought by the refinement path quasi-supreme grandmaster attainment. And this is when I am only deducing and modifying the immortal Gu recipe. In the future, when I make up for my lack of foundational skills in Gu refinement, I can personally take charge of the refinement process. The success rate will increase even more. It is a pity that I don't have enough time. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1570, Myriad Self Immortal Gu. Chapter 1570, Myriad Self Immortal Gu. Translator. Atlas Studios. Editor. Atlas Studios. Lanya Blessed Land, Cloud Cover Continent. Lanya Land Spirit breathed in deeply, shouting, formation, activate. Like millions of bees dancing and buzzing, the refinement path superformation activated. Soon, a huge stream of white gold light burst out and filled the surroundings. Enter the formation. Lanya Land Spirit ordered as he entered the immortal formation at the same time. Next, 6th hair, 3rd hair, 4th hair, 7th hair, and the other hairy man Gu immortals entered the formation. Fong Yuan stood at the periphery of the immortal formation as an observer. He was not personally involved in this Gu refinement, he had handed it to Lanya Land Spirit and the other hairy man Gu immortals. Even though Fong Yuan had quasi-supreme refinement path attainment level, he could not compare to Lanya sect's Gu immortals in terms of practice of refinement fundamentals. During normal times, I can still participate in the Gu refinement. But this time, Lanya Land Spirit is using the refinement path immortal formation that Longhair Ancestor had created personally back then. This immortal formation can only be used by hairy man Gu immortals. As a human Gu immortal, if I enter, I will be killed by the immortal Gu formation. Lanya Blessed Land had deep foundations. This time, they took out one of Longhair's refinement path formations. Of course, with Fong Yuan's methods, he could use his transformation path attainment to turn into a hairy man Gu immortal. But most likely, Lanya sect wanted to keep this formation a secret and did not want to expose it to Fong Yuan. I used Spectral Soul's true inheritance to exchange for Lanya true inheritance back then. Evidently, this long hair refinement path formation is something Lanya Land Spirit is keeping as a trump card. he will not trade it away. Like the lead soul into dream killer move within Spectral Soul's true inheritance, I am also keeping it for myself. Fong Yuan watched from the side as bright light shone in his eyes. Even though Langya's sect pushed Fong Yuan to the side, he was quite satisfied with it. Facing the huge pressure from Heavenly Court, Langya's sect was very anxious. They even activated this long hair refinement path formation to quickly refine Myriad Self Gu for Fong Yuan. Fong Yuan was one of them. After joining Langya's sect, increasing his battle strength was very beneficial for relocating Langya Blessed Land. The long hair refinement path formation activated slowly. The light continued to change colors. It was originally white gold, before turning orange gold, and dark gold. The dark gold light started to flicker with starlight specks. It was very bright. The immortal formation's buzzing got softer. After a few breaths of time, it became completely silent without any sound. The hairy man Gu immortals and Langya Land Spirit were all standing in a big circle. Langya Land Spirit first acted as he activated an immortal formation, opening it and taking out a bunch of already prepared immortal materials. This immortal material resembled chilled and dried sunflowers. The moment it appeared in the immortal formation, it turned into smoke and fused into the dark gold light. Fong Yuan watched solemnly. This was the first crucial step. After the smoke completely fuses into the dark gold light, they would be able to continue. Fong Yuan did not feel much pressure. If this step failed, his losses would not be big. He could restart again. But an hour later, the immortal material completely turned into smoke and fused into the dark gold light perfectly. Within the immortal formation, the dark gold light continued to condense and shrink. It was everywhere earlier, but now it was the size of a house, trapped within the long hair refinement path formation. When the starlight specks within the dark gold light turned into ice stars, Langya Land Spirit activated the immortal formation and started the second step. As time passed, immortal materials were sent into the immortal formation by the hairy man Gu immortals one by one. They were all fusing together. 3 days and nights later, Third Hair started tossing Gu worms into the immortal formation. He first threw in Self-Reliance Gu. This Gu worm was only rank 3, it was shaped like a cockroach, a dark brown colored flat body. There were feelers on its head, and wings on its back. Self-Reliance Gu was a strength path Gu worm that had healing effects. The greater the Gu master's strength, the greater the healing effect. This was a rare Gu worm. Mortals could not find one even if they tried, but Sixth Hair tossed in several hundreds of them. The quantity of Self-Reliance Gu was strictly calculated. Because this involved the quantity of Dao marks, when refining immortal Gu, the numbers had to be precise. When all of the Self-Reliance Gu were tossed in, Langya Land Spirit shouted as he activated long hair refinement path formation fully. At once, within the formation, fire pillars rose, hundreds or thousands of them that were meters tall blazed within the dark gold light. Strong air currents were blowing outwards, but the refinement path immortal formation perfectly trapped them. The hairy man Gu immortals who were standing around the immortal Gu formation could not feel the temperature rising at all. The long hair refinement formation was very exceptional. The orange-red fire pillar continued burning for 48 hours before weakening. The dark gold light was completely burned up. Even the Self-Reliance Gu were burned into an odd rock that was the size of a horse carriage. After waiting for a while, the rock solidified completely. Fong Yuan let out a sigh of relief. The second step of refining Myriad Self Gu was finally over. Next, Langya Land Spirit and the rest started to rest and recuperate while Fourth Hair and Sixth Hair worked to sustain the immortal formation, carving this rock. After some time, the rock was completely ground up and turned into a pile of rock fragments scattered on the ground. Third Hair stopped resting and took out the drinking blade wine, pouring it over these rock fragments. This drinking blade wine was obtained by Fong Yuan not long ago when he killed Meng Tuesday. It had great use now, turning the rock fragments into traces of gray smoke. The gray smoke floated up and condensed into balls of smoke, resembling miniature lanterns that floated in the air. Fourth Hair and Sixth Hair started to rest, while Third Hair took out a number of all-out effort Gu. This Gu worm was shaped like a rhinoceros beetle. It was a mortal Gu. It had the size of an adult's palm, and was very heavy. It was oval in shape, and had a strong armor exoskeleton. There was a strong horn on its head, looking heavy and powerful. It had several pairs of legs, all strong and thick. Its body was dark brown, and glistened with a metallic surface. People only needed one glance to know it was not ordinary. Fong Yuan had not refined all-out effort immortal Gu yet for now, these were all mortal Gu, from rank 1 to 5. The Gu worm entered the smoke and did not mix with it. At this time, Xianxia Land's spirit started to act, opening the inventory and taking out the floating life fire that had already been prepared. Within the transparent fire, large numbers of all-out effort Gu and gray smoke started to fuse. This was a long step. Half a month later, the fusing was completed, be it the floating life fire, all-out effort Gu, or gray smoke, they all vanished, a drizzle was left. This drizzle was restricted by the refinement path immortal formation, it was trapped at the center of the formation, raining down endlessly. By now, the third crucial step was completed too. Time was pressing now, the drizzle was not stable, it was becoming smaller rapidly. All the hairy man Gu immortals and Xianxia Land spirit started to act, they all had different methods, they were in charge of different segments of the Gu refinement. Front-back divine obstruction needles and other immortal materials were all tossed in, as well as large numbers of mortal Gu. The Myriad Self Immortal Gu recipe that Fong Yuan deduced did not expend any immortal Gu, instead, a large number of immortal materials and mortal Gu were used. This way, he would not lose immortal Gu, but his immortal materials and mortal Gu expenditure would increase by tens of times, the amount of work needed for the refinement also increased drastically. This was also why Xianxia's sect was using the long hair refinement path formation. As time passed, all the crucial steps were passed without much danger or accidents. After 2 months in Xianxia Blessed Land's time, the refinement of Myriad Self Immortal Gu reached the final crucial step. Fong Yuan had time path methods of course, but he could not reduce the time needed. The shrinking of time by time path was essentially carving time path Dao marks to influence it. During the refinement process, the addition of time path Dao marks would disrupt the refinement itself. 2 months was Fong Yuan's current limit already. He had used all of his time path methods that could be used to perfectly refine the immortal Gu without additional disruption, by turning the Dao marks into materials for the refinement. The immortal formation resonated and shook, bright light burst into the sky. Xianxia Land's spirit let out a deep sigh, the rest of the hairy man Gu immortals had tired expressions, but joy was on their faces. The final step succeeded. The light faded as a rank 7 immortal Gu appeared. This Gu worm was more than 10 meters long, it was like a centipede that shined in a metallic luster, the mouthpiece on its head looked dangerous while there was a pair of long antennas on its forehead, it had 5,000 legs on either side of its body, having a total of 10,000 legs. Rank 7 Immortal Gu Myriad Self. To think that the first refinement succeeded. We finally refined it. The hairy man Gu immortals cheered, they were extremely happy. Myriad Self Immortal Gu was trapped at the center of the refinement path immortal formation, because Fong Yuan was not the person who refined it, it was currently still ownerless. But soon, Fong Yuan refined it rapidly using the help of the refinement path immortal formation. Using one attempt to refine this rank 7 immortal Gu, Fong Yuan was also very happy, he had never even dared to dream of such a thing happening in the past. 50% success rate was too high. Fong Yuan tried to inject immortal essence into Myriad Self Immortal Gu, it started to shine as countless Fong Yuan strength path phantoms appeared from within the light, it was like using the killer move Myriad Self. The effect is only slightly weaker, after all, the killer move Myriad Self uses too many Gu worms. Fong Yuan could feel the difference, the immortal essence expenditure has fallen greatly, the activation is also much easier now, it only needs one thought. The killer move back then needed time to prepare no matter how familiar I was with it, it also used a lot of mental energy. Fong Yuan tested it and was extremely satisfied with Myriad Self Immortal Gu. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know your report chapter so we can fix it as soon as possible.